How are you? And welcome to the Experience with Rehman Cee. And I've got MJ on today, and so we're going to have a chat with her. Hope you guys are doing absolutely well. The Experience with Rehman Cee is about real people with real stories about real life. So I'm going to invite MJ on, and then we're going to have. Hope you guys are all doing extraordinary and are in great spirits. MJ, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you, Rehman Cee?
Good, good. Listen, we've cut your head off now on the live.
Yes. Okay, so I'll move it
But
back.
yeah.
I'll move it back. Okay, great.
Awesome. Awesome. So where are you? Oh yeah, you're in New York City,
I
right?
am in New York City, yes.
Yeah. What's life like in New York City right now?
Well, a lot of scary things, I guess, taking place in the media. So a lot of people are in fear and just, you know, I never thought that New York would be the place where people are just so, divided and not, just, I don't know, it's not the same. It is not the same how it was even like 6 months ago. Uh, the, most of the streets are empty. A lot of people are, most people are wearing masks. Just you could see fear in their eyes, and it's just the vibe is not the same. Most people are actually gone to their homes of their summer homes, or they just left New York, so it's pretty empty now. Yeah, I mean, I like it, but then I don't like it because it's just not the same, you know.
Yeah,
And
it's interesting, but I mean, they say, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, right? So
right.
it's, this is what, difficulty separates those with character and those, a little bit more. I mean, I wouldn't say those with character, but difficulty does separate people in terms of their personalities. So,
Mm-hmm.
but listen, let's get into the show.
Yeah.
Let's get into the show. So, my question I always ask is, first of all, what's your message to the world?
um I mean, the broader, message is to really live while you're alive and not wait for something to happen. If I have this, I'll be happy. Or, and most people are, living in catching something that will make them happy. And I think that my message will be to, make the best of what you have now, and as opposed to acquiring these items or things or materialistic things, and really just be present, be now, because now is what we could control. So we can, when I have this, I'll be happy. It's a choice. It's a choice. You could be happy right now, be in gratitude, be, there's so many things to be grateful for. So I think that, and with everything that's going on now, people are very in fear because of the fear of death. And and I see this a lot, that people stop living, really living, because they don't even hug their kids, or their loved ones. So they're living in fear and not realizing that, like, we all gonna die anyway, right? So like, they're not really truly living. Uh, and that my message will be to be present, to be in gratitude, to be find happiness in now, and not rely on outside sources
Yeah.
to acquire that.
So, how did you evolve to develop this philosophy, this perspective? What's been the journey to that?
Uh, if you met me 15 years ago, I was angry, I wasn't happy, and it took a lot of reading. Eckhart Tolle, the author, The Power of Now, really
Hmm.
changed my life. I read that book, and it just, it was such an eye opening to, like, be now, be happy. And it took a lot of practice daily. It's not like, oh, you wake up and you're like, oh yeah, like, I'm seeing the world differently. It took a lot of daily practice to realize that it's like a muscle, you know, like when you're working out, it's the same with your thoughts, and you have to, you know, consciously, like, okay, like don't go in that dark place, basically. And the more you do it, you know, I started writing a gratitude journal. That helped me a lot. When I'm down, let's say, you know, I still have days that I'm like down, and so I just go back to that journal and I look at the things that I wrote down. Like if I can't find something that I'm like grateful for, which is like never the case, because even like seeing, like talking is such a, you know, wonderful thing. So, but you know, going back to the journal, the things that you wrote about, really like, wow, like you have so many things to be grateful for. So that has been really good tool for me, that helped me to you know, be just overall more grateful for things, that the little things, you know. And you know, I used to like to be like, I like to control things. Like I used to like get angry when I couldn't get things my way, and that's just your own limiting, you know, that's like your own struggle with yourself. It's like when you let go, it's like whatever happens happens, and usually things align the way they're supposed to, for your greater good. So letting go of that, and yeah, it's like a really daily practice that has been, and then the more you do it, the more you're like, oh yeah, like, and then you catch yourself, like if you're thinking negative, it's like, no, like I'm not gonna let that, you know. Or you know, if you like, you know, if you're judging someone, like that's really your own insecurity. Like you are not happy about that yourself, and you're just, you know, the outside people is just reflection of you. So when you realize that, it's like, oh, like that's just a tool, that's what I need to work on. So I'm still working on so many things, but also really changing my diet really also helped me. You know, I stopped eating meat 7 years ago, and that just like shifted like a whole world open for me. Just like I'm not weighted down, I'm not really as depressed, because you know, the hormones and antibiotics they put in the meat really messed me up. And yeah, that just, you know, I became more you know, aware of my body's emotions, and because we store everything in our body, or everything from the time that we're born, we're stored in our tissues. So when you can't really listen to what your body's telling you, it's like you have like this shield on yourself that you know. So when you're eating more consciously and you're more aware of what you're putting in your body as well, you're more likely to be in tune and have more self-love for yourself. So yeah, it's a lot of self-love practice as well. You know, it's like a daily thing. Like do one thing that you will really enjoy. Like what will make your day, you know. It could be like reading a book, you know, going for a walk, or something that will make you happy. So having that practice also, like every single day, even if it's like 10 minutes, like, you know, do a little yoga, do a little, you know, watch something that like will uplift you. So like, you know, daily practice will also really you know, enhance how you deal with life every day. Because if you're not doing things that you love, then you're going to be angry at your spouse, you're going to be angry at your children. So you have to find that time for yourself, in whatever that is for you, or you know. So yeah.
Awesome. So let's go back a little bit. So you said you were an angry person 10 years back, 15 years back. Um, let's go back to the beginning. Talk to me about your parents. Tell me about how you were raised. What was their parenting style? What was the relationship between you and your parents?
Well, I have really great relationship with my parents. I guess what caused me this anger and friction is when they divorced, which was at the time I was 7. So I was really torn apart. I didn't know what was going on. So I guess that caused me confusion, and just, you know, I didn't understand, because, you know, both of them are really laid back, understanding, you know, whatever I do, they support me. So, you know, and also I was born in Europe. So
Where were you born?
I was born in Lithuania, which is
Okay.
near Germany and Poland. So so I moved to US when I was 10 years old, and you know my father was still in Lithuania, my mom, because they separated, so my mom came to New York, and that caused me you know, that was just like a huge shift for a child to like leave everything behind, leave your, you know, I didn't speak English. I had to leave all my friends at the age of 10. It's like a huge thing. So I guess that caused me a lot of anger, a lot of frustration. Like I didn't feel like I was in control. So I think that that was the major cause of my frustration. It wasn't really the way my parents brought me up, because they were still, you know, very, very loving. And yeah, like I, I have, like I still have really great parents, and I talk to them, you know, daily. And yeah, so yeah, my frustration was just like just moving, physically moving, and in a place that I had no idea about. You know, I didn't speak the language, so for any kid that would cause frustration, I'm sure. So
Yeah, so I'm going to go into that, but still, just talk to me about your parents. You said they were pretty laid back. Um, you know, what was their kind of expectations of you?
well, they didn't really have any expectations of me to, you know, like, oh, go to here, like become this. They were, you know, basically explore your options. Whatever you want to do, will basically like support you. And so it wasn't like any pressure for me to become this and that. Like I know most kids try to be like their mom or their dad. So I was really fortunate that, you know, there was no push in that sense at all.
Talk to me about your dad. What was his personality like? And then talk to me about your mum. What was her personality like?
Uh, with my father, he's unfortunately was an alcoholic, so he would have a lot of episodes where, you know, I would be a kid, and he would get drunk. So I guess that was really hard, being, you know, 5 years old, and he would just you know, you don't know what he's gonna do. Well, not in terms of violence, but just like I never felt safe with him at those times. So, but besides that, when he's sober, he is very he wouldn't be as open. Like he wouldn't like have like a lot of in-depth like feelings, you know. But then when he would get drunk, he would be like, "Oh, I love you so much." So that was interesting to see how he cares, but he just can't, you know, say those things when he's sober. And you know, I understand that now. As a kid, I was confused, but and I know that he loves me. He just doesn't express that when he's, you know, sober. So but his personality, you know, I would have to watch out what I say around him, because he could get sometimes offended, just because of his ego. With my mom, she is my best friend. I could tell her anything. Uh, you know, we laugh, we cry together. It's like literally I, I could tell her anything, and she'll be like support me, and she is not judgmental. So you know, and yeah, they are great in their both ways, and they have, you know, my father will be more stricter, my mom will be more laid back, so they had that balance. Yeah, yeah.
And are you the only sibling?
So I have two half brothers, so it's just different. You know, they both had different marriages, so they had children from their other side. So two older brothers. You know, so I have a same mom and different dad, and then same dad, different mom.
Yeah, yeah.
So half siblings.
Okay. So talk to me about your grandparents. Did you have a relationship with them?
From my mom's side, yeah, they are still alive, and they're in Europe. Yeah, I mean, I have great relationship with my both of my grandparents. My grandma is more closed off, so I had to, you know, talk to her more and try to dig into her life and her past. And she wouldn't open up as much. And my grandpa, he's like an open book, and like he talks about his stories, and yeah.
So do you have an idea in terms of how your father was raised, parenting style wise, by his parents?
A little bit, yeah. Like, so he was telling me that when he was raised, that, you know, so his parents were born like 1920, 20s, like, you know, 1930. So in those times, it was like taboo to talk about like where children come from, and like they he didn't have good relationship with his own parents. Like they weren't close. So that's where, you know, he doesn't know how to act with me because he never had that close relationship. But I know that he's very loving, and you know, he obviously he loves his children, but he, you know, he wasn't close with them. And when he was 16, he like left his home and he went to train. So he basically didn't really have close relationship with his mom. Especially he was closer to his dad because he was more laid back, and he, like, you know, did like manly stuff, like, you know, construction and stuff, or like building mechanics. So he and I met my grandma from my father's side, so his mom. And you know, one thing I have like regret in my life is not really knowing her. And so just because he didn't have a close relationship with her, I didn't have a closer relationship with her. And you know, she's passed now, so it's like, you know, I don't have that opportunity anymore. But yeah, so I guess at those times it was different for him. And the same with my mom as well. You know, she wasn't close with her mom, because they're like so closed off, that generation.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
really vulnerable.
So what would you say is the one thing your mother taught you and one thing your father taught you?
Um, my father taught me to. He always said to at least try everything at least once. I mean, obviously, he's like, don't try cocaine or like jumping off, you know, a building or whatever. But he was always like, you know, if you want to do that, try it at least once. You know, so you know, that was his message. And my mom taught me a lot of patience. You know, just in general, like, just, you know, be patient, and but also don't let people like roll over you, you know. So that's, yeah, that is my biggest takeaway from them so far.
Interesting. So the key thing for you was that the divorce happened and then you lost control, meaning that because of that situation, you were put into a new environment. You had to come to New York. You didn't speak the language, and it was not something that you volunteered for. So your ability to process and handle that wasn't, wasn't developed at that point, right? So talk to me about your journey from uh, coming to New York. Did your mother have relatives here? Did she know people here, or she just kind of tried? Um, and then what was the journey from there to now?
So my mom had uh, her like longtime friend, that she was, you know, so that lived in New York. So she moved from Lithuania to New York as well. And she was just here for a little bit. And my mom was like, I need to get out of Lithuania, just because she had a, you know, rough time as well. And so she came to New York. And then, you know, she's like, she basically like found like a place for her to like rejuvenate. So she was staying with her friend, you know, her best friend at the time. So they both were living together. And then she was actually here for a year. So, and basically I was with my grandparents in Lithuania, you know, by myself, because my father was alcoholic at the time. I couldn't stay with him. So yeah, so then she's like, I'm moving to New York. You know, this is my decision. And so I had to come with her because I couldn't stay with my father. And then it took me a long time. It took me about 6 years of living here to really adjust. I was always not happy. Like we would go for vacation every 6 months to Lithuania, and I never felt home at here. Like I always wanted to go back just because, you know, everyone's there, my friends and family. And then it's something maybe like after 6 years that like clicked to me. Like I got adjusted, and then like from then on, like I felt like New York was my home. And then also like slowly, like the connections I had in Lithuania just like drifted apart. So I never, you know, like, yeah, when I go back, you know, I would just see like my father and my grandparents and, you know, my brothers, and not really like my friends would just not, you know, it just drifted apart. So yeah, so that was, the journey took me a while to get adjusted to being here, basically. But now I'm adjusted, even though I'm like still trying to be more rooted somewhere else. I'm not really a fan of the city currently, so
Yeah, you're thinking of shifting out.
yeah, I just definitely want to be more grounded, have a garden, and you know, it's just too, you know, with everything that's going on now, it's just too much. You really want to be like, you know, barefoot on your grass somewhere in the garden. So
Yeah.
that's my goal.
Do you know where you want to go?
Well, I was thinking of Hawaii for a little bit, just because it's still in the United States. I don't really see anything in the United States that I would like to be, just because there's so many environmental things that could not be good for like long term. So yeah, I'm still like, it's up in the air. I'm deciding, and I'm not sure, but we'll see what happens. So.
Tell me a little bit about Lithuania. Um, what is that place like?
I mean, it's beautiful. In the summertime, especially, it's so much nature. I was born in the city, so the city has like the old town. It's very nice, and a lot of lakes, forests, which I love those things that, you know, you can go to mushroom like picking and stuff like that. Um, and in the winter it's really like cold, and winters are really long, so that's like the downside of being there. But also in the summer it's like you have like fresh fruit, and you know, my grandma has a garden, so like they have freshly grown like strawberries, raspberries, like you name it, like basically they have it. So it's like really amazing to like go out in the garden and like pick your food, like pick your salad or whatever, you know. So that's like a huge thing that, you know, I never really appreciated it until I moved out of New York, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to like buy everything now. When like back in, you know, you could just go to like Apple Tree and pick up your apples. And so I really like, when I go back now, like I really appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, people wise, the only thing like living here, like in New York, like, and the contrast there, people could be a little bit cold, like they wouldn't want to like, hey, how are you, like they wouldn't like, if you, or if you smiled at them, like they would be more like, oh, like what is wrong, like you're weird, you know. So when I go back, it's like people are like very like shut off, like and maybe like more judgmental of like if you have like tattoos, or like, you know, my friend like had like a shaved head, and like he's getting harassed for that. So you don't see that much in New York. So that was an interesting observation. You know, but yeah, I mean, it's small. It's only like 3 million people in Lithuania. So, and then like in villages, you know, people are a bit more community orientated, and not in the cities. Outside the cities, if you're like living close by, they would be really like, oh hey, like I have this, and you have like, you know, like trading and stuff like that. And they would be more intimate connection between people like outside the city. So that's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so tell me about the rest of your journey. So, you got acclimatized to New York. Um, what happened from there to now?
Um, well, you know, like I was going to school here. I went to, you know, this institute, and then, um, you know, for like my studies. And yeah,
What
I
were you
mean,
studying?
I was studying nutrition.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my, just my passion in life. Um, yeah, and it wasn't like anything like exciting. It's like, it's just like day to day, like anywhere else. Just, and, working a couple jobs here and there. Um, and getting into like different ideas that I'm exposed to. I love like meeting people from like all walks of life. So like one of my like favorite things in the city is that you don't know who you're gonna run into, and that's very exciting, and their life story as well. So it's like, and you meet people from like different backgrounds and cultures, and it's like so amazing. Like that's one of the reasons I really love New York, is that you can meet, and learn about their culture, not from like reading something, but like talking to them. So I really like that. So I made a lot of great friends through just being in the city. Um, yeah, and it's just it's nice in that aspect. There's a lot of downsides, um, but yeah, that was pretty much just being in school, working, and you kind of slowly get adjusted to just the life. I mean, we're adaptable humans, so like we'll adapt anywhere, just a matter of time. So
So how did you rebel? You said you were angry. Um, the anger was something that was just emotional, or did you rebel in other ways as well?
yeah, well, it was emotional, and then also I started smoking, cigarettes and drinking. I would, and then like I would get angry and physically like punch a wall or something. It would be, it's like not me at all now. But yeah, I feel like I was self-destructive because of that anger. Like I didn't love myself. Like I had no love, and that came in like all forms. Like just like not really caring what I put in my body at all. Like I would eat like McDonald's and stuff like that. Uh, so completely different from what I'm about now. So yeah, that was my form. It wasn't like I was a little bit like I would lash out. Like maybe I would say something to my mom like that would be a little bit disrespectful or something, because I guess like I felt like perhaps you know it was almost like her decision. Well, it was her decision, so I was maybe blaming her for some part of it. But then also like our relationship got like we got closer together as well. But yeah, so it would be like physical and just like self-destructive anger.
Yeah.
So,
So what was the shift? How did you move out of that trauma?
well, I don't know how, but I like came across like these like self-help books, and then like later there was like a bunch of YouTubes, and um, I think that I think like the stepping stone was me going to that Institute for Integrative Nutrition. Like I went to that school for like a couple of years, and that exposed me to like a whole thing, like different like lifestyles. It exposed me to yoga, to like meditation, and just opened me up to different things. So I think that was like a stepping stone and just like eye opening for me to you know get self-care for myself. So from then on, it was just like, oh, like I just dived into like different books, and like I start to like experiment on myself, like with different uh, foods and superfoods and all that stuff. So, and I think from then on, like the food really like impacted my well-being, and then doing yoga and just all that stuff. So that really helped me out. But yeah, it was basically the nutrition school that like opened me up to
Interesting. So
change.
what appeals to you about going into nutrition? What was the exciting thing for you that you felt you wanted to study nutrition?
Well, around that time, my grandma had colon cancer, and my mom was. I think it's from like passed down like generations, because my grandma on my dad's side, she was into herbs and different like healing, like natural healing stuff, and my grandma from my mom's side, she had colon cancer, and my mom was also studying nutrition, and she loved that as well. So she came across like these different like remedies, and basically my grandma didn't do chemo or surgery, and like healed naturally like through foods and stuff like that. So when I saw that, I was like, because it was transformation like day and night within like 6 months from like
Wow.
how she looked. Yeah, so I was like, oh my gosh, like these things are like so powerful. And you know, like she was doing kombucha, which is like now super popular, but back in the day, no one really knew about that. So
Right.
she was like brewing it in her home, like the whole scobies at her house, and you know, so seeing that, I was like, wow, like this is so powerful. Like you could like heal yourself with like different foods, and that led me to like almost like having power over yourself, because I was like feeling powerless. So like when I saw that like you could like shift yourself with like basically take control of your own health, uh like that just like gave me like hope in a way. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I just like dived into it, like ever since then, like 2013, I'm like into all these like nutrition weird stuff, so
Yeah. It's a shame your grandma didn't market and brand kombucha.
yeah, yeah,
right,
right,
right at the beginning, right?
yeah, yeah.
So, so where are you now? Who are you now? What's your identity?
Well, I don't really like to put labels what I'm like, what my identity is. I mean, just because, you know, the labels I feel like trap me in a way. Like if I'm like saying like, oh yeah, like I'm a white blonde lady, like yeah, like that's what you see inside, like outside, like looking at me. But like I don't know, like we are in a way, we are the whole universe, like everything. We are the universe in a human form. So it's like I can't even explain like what I am. You know, like we are the cosmos. You know,
Yeah, I
and we
get
are
that. I get that, but we're also part of the physical world, right? And
right.
in the
Yeah,
physical world, you do use labels. Like
right, right,
you are a human being, right? You're not a continuous form of the cosmos. You're a human. You're defined. You've got, you know, like you said, you've got blonde hair, blue eyes. You know, you're a female. So I think you can't escape from the idea of using labels if you're in the physical dimension.
right, right.
If you're in the spiritual dimension, I get it, right? You can be anything that you want. And this is also an interesting point, but we'll get into that, about the idea of being both in the spiritual and in the physical dimension in the same time, in the same space, right? And so you're speaking from the spiritual perspective, that you don't want to set limits to yourself. But, you know, sometimes what they say, wisdom is experience and then reflection.
Hmm.
So, in order to reflect on your experience, you have to define the experience and then reflect on that. So, defining the experience is like putting a label on it, right? I was this, you know, I was frustrated, I was angry, and now I am this. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay, so I see what you're saying. So basically, like in like how I am in the present moment right now. Like you're saying, not like not what I will be, or
Yeah, I'm not worried about
like
you.
my
Yeah.
like basically my so like before I was angry, frustrated. Now I feel calm, um, hopeful, peaceful. Um, yeah, present. You know, as
Okay.
much as I can.
Okay, so let's go deep now. Let's get into
Yeah,
the
sure.
real game. Um, so, what do you think? Do you think the universe, like even before humans came into existence, how did the universe appear? Did it appear randomly, or did it appear non-randomly?
Well, I don't think that there's such thing as like randomness. I think that everything happens for some reason. Um, and I mean, there are so many theories like how we came here to be, and I mean, unless I like really like meditate like for hours, I won't know like that answer. But I think that we're not random. Like I think that we are here for a reason, And I believe that we live many lives in different bodies, and maybe we were those ancient people back in the day. But I don't think that there's such thing as randomness. Even our conversations, something right now, like there's a reason why we're talking.
Yeah. Well, there's two perspectives on that. It's interesting. So first of all, let me reinterpret what you just said. If you believe that the universe is non-random, which is what I understand you saying, then that means it's by design, because anything that's non-random is by design.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
it's by design, then nothing is ever designed for no reason, right?
Right.
And if nothing is designed for no reason, what is the reason for our design? What's the design for the human being?
Um, I think that, to be of service in a way, um, and to experience consciousness, because we are human beings. We are aware of our own consciousness, as opposed to perhaps other, beings and species. So because we have that consciousness, and we are aware of our own consciousness, so then we have a responsibility to basically be of service, and teach others what you know. So it's a very, deep question. Um, but, and also, I think that we come here to realize, because everyone has different gifts and talents, I think that during our lifetime, we should, you know, uh, think about what those are, and embrace it, and share with the world. And everyone has talents, and unique gifts.
What is your gift and talent?
To be there for people, either, through assisting them in knowledge, in let's say through nutrition, because I try to help people to self-empower themselves through different foods, and yoga. So I think, for me, for now at least, I'm not sure what will happen later, is to empower people to have control of their own lives by means of food, and their own like yogic union. So for now, that's what I think my gift is. I love listening to people. You know, I think that not many people are capable to like really be there for someone. So I feel like, because like I'm in air science, so like I could like communicate and listen and be there for them. So I think that is also very powerful. Just someone like me just sharing my story with you, that's very empowering. Like today, I actually realized some like aha moments like that I never thought about. So when people, like when you question me, like I never really tried to go there without that question. So like I like to also do that to people, and ask these different questions that bring something up for them. So that's really powerful, because otherwise I wouldn't have thought about my parents, or what they taught me, or the whole unit. Like I tried to think about like those things, but not like really like sit down and like pull that from my subconscious. So yeah, so I think that's like just being of service to people from nutrition standpoint, just because it helped me so much. So I try to do that to other people, and help them as well, so they don't feel like they're hopeless in their life.
What is consciousness?
Well, it's awareness. Um, it's awareness of it's like a captain who is like driving the ship, like it's like you're not like that. So there's like subconscious and conscious. So your subconscious is like ruling the most like of your, you know, background or like whatever like you had like impressions from your like childhood, they're like still running there. But once you make that conscious, like once you are aware of your like those little patterns that you're doing, like you're like, oh yeah, like here it is, like you're conscious because you're aware. So then you could change that, or you could be aware. And like whenever people are saying like the first step to change is awareness. So once you're aware, like you're consciously like, oh yes, I'm doing this, then you could change it. So I feel like consciousness can mean awareness. Not exactly synonym, like the same word, but I think that it's a huge part of like how I could describe it would be like awareness and being aware of your conscious. So then you could like implement changes and stuff like that.
You believe in life after death?
I do. I read Many Lives, Many Masters. I'm not sure if you're aware of that book, but basically this woman, and it's a true story. It's a true story. She's going through regressions, so she's put into hypnosis, and she is her life is so complicated, and she has so many things that she's working on. So basically, by going to regressions of hypnosis, she is accessing her past lives. So basically, like in this lifetime, she had pain in her neck and she didn't know what was happening. So by going to past life regressions, she found out that she was shot in her neck in the past life, and like she saw the whole vision, and everything so is being recorded on the recorder through her sessions. And that's how the book came about, because the doctor Wise, he put together the whole like transcript of the of the sessions, and she was like channeling masters, and so she was going through like a bunch of lives. And reading that book, I was like, wow, like I was just blown away. Like, and some part of me, like, I don't know 100%, but I would like to believe that there are, karmic relationships, and that we, you know, reincarnate perhaps into different, like maybe we knew each other because of this like conversation. Maybe we knew each other like many lives ago, like who knows, especially like those relationships that are very like challenging in this lifetime. Like perhaps like you need to work on them because something that happened in the past life. Like I really believe that. And I would, even if you don't believe in past lives or future, like life after death, I would still recommend reading that book. It just gives you like insight, and you're like, wow, like, because it's not really like made up. Like like the woman itself didn't believe in all those things until like she experienced, and just like going back and healing that, like she became like a whole new person from that.
Yeah.
So
So, if we evolve and we have past lives, do we come from, like, do we have past lives as different things other than humans, or we're always humans?
well, so from what I was reading, or we are humans. It doesn't have to be, specifically like, oh, I'm a female now, I was female before. It could be, any gender. So I think, yeah, because perhaps that, and I believe that you could incarnate into other things, but because we're already like at such a high um, consciousness level, like it will be, unless you're like did so many like ridiculous things in this lifetime, that you would downgrade yourself to like, I don't know, some like weird creature like a rat, or not even, like, so like it's like almost like downgrading yourself. You don't you reincarnate into human.
What's your framework for reasoning when you conclude on beliefs? What is the framework through which you reason to conclude that that belief is correct?
um on some level, it just like really like resonates deeply. um like, you know, someone could tell you like something and you're like, oh yeah, like on some level, like, I don't know if it's like intuition or like you feel like it is correct. And, you know, my beliefs used to be different about different like things. And now, like, as you experience more and you talk to more people and they have similar experiences, and also like, let's say we're talking about past lives and stuff like that. And so for me, what led me to believe about this, that there's possibilities, is because people like us having these like near death experiences that I forget her name, but you know, this woman, she had tumors everywhere. And she was in a hospital, she was dying. And then she she had a certified death, so she died. So but then um, when she had that, and obviously she came back because she, you know, she told her story, but she experienced her father in a different realm, like basically like in a spirit realm. And she understood why she had those tumors, because she never felt loved by her father. And 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 then, you know, she experienced love, like infinite love from him. Like that's, you know, her. And I'll try to, you know, maybe, you know, I'll find her name, and you could, you know, look at her interesting story.
Yeah.
But she came back, and basically she understood why she had it. And when she understood why, like her tumors within very short time just dissolved, like, and the doctors were shocked, like they're like, you were supposed to die, you die, like, you know, what happened? So people like that, you know, you can't make up these stories. It's like, you know, a real person.
Yeah.
And there's other stories like that as well. So when you listen to them, you're like, you can't really ignore that fact. It's like, you know, if you're ignoring that, then you're like ignoring a whole part of you that, you know, someone else experienced. So that's, I basically, that's how I judge it. And not judge it, but like, you know, like reject or not reject that idea. Um, and I try not to reject any ideas. I also try to like see from different sides, just, you know, because that's like a wholesome way of looking at things. So yeah, just because others have experienced this, it's like you have to kind of take that into consideration.
Yeah. It's interesting. I have a problem with like reincarnation to the degree that you're definitely in New York City. I have a problem with reincarnation to the degree that the population is increasing constantly. So if there are 7 billion people now, there'll be 14 million, then there'll be 50 million, right? Where are those reincarnations taking place from? How are those reincarnations taking place if the pool that they're coming from is less than the pool that they're becoming? Do you get what I'm saying?
Right, right. So what I was, you know, researching, that there are a lot of souls that don't have a body, or at least, I mean, I can't say anything 100%, but there are souls that don't, that they're either, you know, there's like a suicide that happened, or something that wasn't like meant to happen, or other reasons, that they're trapped between realms, like between you know, this realm and the higher ones, and they don't have a body. So perhaps that's why the time comes, and they reincarnate into something, and maybe that's why it's growing. Um, if
Right, but
you
I'm just saying mathematically the numbers don't add up. But
But we really don't know what's out there in these worlds that we cannot see.
right,
So
right. So it's like that's what I'm trying to say. Is how do you compute? How do you process? How do you reason to a belief? That's very important. So we've got about 10 minutes left. So I want to kind of move on this. But what I would say is like for me, my basis for reasoning is through rationality. That if I can't understand something, then it's difficult for me to believe it's true. I don't discount it, but I don't say it's true either. I just say I don't know at that point. Do you get what I'm saying? And that's an opportunity to discover more, but I don't know. What is interesting, what I've seen is that I believe that the human is just a ball of energy. So energy has no value unless it's channeled or directed. So the way we channel the energy is through our thoughts. So what we think is what we become. So the thoughts allocate, or energy allocates to the thoughts, and the thoughts become feelings, and they become personified in our being, right? So the point is that when it's related to thoughts or stories are just a pattern of thoughts. So if you have a lot of thoughts and they are part of they're composite, they're part of a complete idea, you can call that a story. Do you get what I'm saying? So all the human being is just our story. So whatever stories we tell ourselves, we become. And that's the important thing to recognize, that it's not that it necessarily needs to be true. It just needs to be that we believe it to be true. And
Right.
then it becomes part of our being. Do you get what I'm saying? So, you know, in the past, in history, people used to think that the earth was flat. And even these great sages and all these people thought that the earth was flat. So it didn't make a difference to their reality to the degree that they didn't know otherwise. So whatever they assumed, it was working for them. So what I do understand about the human mind is that what it perceives is more important than what actually is true, what is fact. But if you're able to discover the fact, that's more powerful, because then there's no doubt. Like, if someone is able to give you better knowledge, then you have the reasoning through which to decipher that that person's point of view has more believability or more congruence to it than somebody else's. Do you know what I'm saying? And you can pick choices. You have that ability. So that's why truth is powerful, and it's more powerful than perception, to the degree that you're able to get more knowledge. So, I mean, I do believe objective truth does exist, and we're able to access it. And that's what the journey should be, that we should be constantly trying to access truth. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. What would you like to talk about?
Well, I mean, eventually I would like to know your story as well, but perhaps we don't have time for today's interview. But yeah, no, I mean, what you're saying is very interesting, and perception. I mean, if you look at now, like, you know, people, this situation, people don't know if there's a virus or not. I mean, we could, you know, see perception of the media implanting these thoughts and ideas, but do we really know? Do we have the tools? Do we have the medical means of our own to test that? But, you know, sometimes we have to like trust these, you know, sources, but we also have to ask, you know, does that make a difference? Like yes, perhaps knowing that the earth is not flat, like, okay, like, you know, more knowledge now, but does that change your day-to-day life of like, would you live differently now, like if you knew that the earth was flat or if it was a square? Like, so we had to also,
I think you do. It changes. Truth affects your truth, influences or affects your perception. So you're constantly perceiving, but once you have truth, that perception has become enhanced. So you are more aware of the reality that you're living in. You're better able to acclimatize to the reality. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like, once you know that the earth is round, then you know that you're part of a universe where you can understand that night sky. You can understand the idea about planets and sun and stars and all that kind of stuff. And that allows you to then understand your implications on planet Earth. But let's not go there. Let me ask you a couple of more questions because I'm conscious of the time. So let me ask you a few quick questions. Are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I would say both. I used to be more extrovert when I was growing up, and then it fluctuates. It fluctuates, but I love to be social, and so I'm a Gemini, so I could talk for days, but then also I need to retrieve and have my own time of just my time. So you could say both, yeah.
Okay. Are you a realist or an idealist?
Also, I think it depends on the situation of what we're saying, of what we're discussing. If if you give me like a subject, then maybe I could better tell you. But I think I want to like you see both perspectives.
Are you rational or emotional?
More emotional, I would say. Sometimes I wish I wasn't, but yeah.
Are you more hands-on practical or are you an intellectual?
Practical, hands-on, yeah.
Okay. Um, are you risk averse or a risk taker?
I would like to say risk taker, but I mean, probably not risk taker as much as I would want to. I would want to take more risks. So something I'm conscious of and working on to just dive in more to things that scare me.
Do you prefer certainty or uncertainty?
Mm, certainty, and I think that uncertainty is very fun, and it could be adventurous, but sometimes you don't want to take that leap or that step. But when you're out there and you don't know what's gonna happen, like that's really fun, but like you're not really like sometimes ready to take that step.
Do you think at the age 5 you preferred uncertainty or certainty?
Uncertainty, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you get conditions like, oh, don't do that, you'll get this.
What about at age 8 or 9? Did you prefer uncertainty or certainty?
Uncertainty as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your conditioning for certainty may be in relation to the trauma you experienced rather than that's your actual state.
Yeah, I mean, I dived into like such a huge uncertainty when I was young, so then I was like, oh my god, like I don't want any more. But then it's not that bad, you know. So I feel like now I'm like actually more willing to, because like I still like survive or whatever, like I'm still more able to experience more uncertain situations, whether it's big or small.
Right. So that this whole experience of the uncertainty has told you, or has the lesson learned is that you can deal with uncertainty. So it's not an
Absolutely.
issue. Whereas otherwise, you may not have had any exposure to be able to make that conclusion. We've got 2 minutes left. Let me ask you a couple of quick questions. Very short answers. If you were an animal, what kind of animal would you describe yourself as?
Dog.
And what are the 3 qualities of a dog you possess?
Cute, uh, always loving, there for people, or yeah.
Loyal. Okay. So they say you're the average of the 5 people that you most hang out with. If you had 5 people that you could surround yourself with, who would those 5 people be? And it's a fantasy, so you can choose past, present, or future.
I love the people that I'm surrounded with now. My parents, my significant other, someone who will push you forward. It doesn't have to be any like idealistic famous people. I'm very happy with the people I have in my life right now.
Okay. What does success mean to you?
Willing to fail and rising up again and doing that same thing better and better.
Say that again one more time.
Rising up and doing like failing and then still not giving up and doing
Okay.
that thing better and better. So
So success means rising up
from the
within
failure
from the
and not
failure.
giving up.
Okay, cool. And what's your final message? You've got 20 seconds.
Be present, be now, be happy, and all is well, and everything will always work out no matter what you think. It'll always work out to your best of your situation.
Awesome. Listen, thank you so much for hanging out with
Thank
me. I really
you.
appreciate your time.
Absolutely. My pleasure. It was really nice to chat with you.
All right. Take care.
All right.